Hey, welcome back to another episode of Pushing Back Chaos. This is Mike, and we're kicking off the show a little bit early without our favorite Aussie guest, Melon. He's late again. He fell asleep a long time ago because we're on the other side of the earth, and I've been messaging him, and just to be perfectly clear, he's lazy and he doesn't answer me back. But if he happens to hop on, we'll have a rendezvous and we'll kick it off. But no time to waste because our special guest today is giving up his free time. He's an old man, usually goes to bed around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, gets up early, he has a good job, and we want to make sure he's good to go. But yeah, so this week, pretty special to me personally. This is one of my best friends that I'm bringing on. And, I'm sure the first thing is like, man, who's this guy going to be? Is he famous? Is he this? Is he that? Does everybody know who he is? More than likely not. And that's exactly why I wanted to ask him to come on. He's got an amazing story. He's been through a lot of adversity, which you're going to hear about. I'm not going to take it all away, but I'll introduce you here in a second. But this is going to be a very in-depth, hard episode, just as a forewarning. But it's also going to be one of the best stories you hear in a long time about overcoming adversity and personal struggles that we can all relate to. I guarantee it. So without further ado, I would like to welcome one of my best friends, Wayne Minnicks, onto the show. What's up, dude?
What's going on, man?
Just another late night hanging out, and yeah, man. How was your weekend? Did you get anything fun?
Oh, no, it's so like usually on weekends, I do church on Sunday, and my wife is obsessed with soups. So I spent like 8 hours on Sunday after church making soup for her. So
I think I
uh,
saw something about that.
yeah, it's you make the chicken stock, and then I made the homemade chicken noodle soup. It comes out good. I mean, it's a lot of work, but you can really taste the difference. You know, so
Well, as you can see, he's absolutely not famous, but I will tell you, he's an amazing chef. And his currency when he visits me is not money, but Mike, what do you want me to cook for you? And he pays his dues and his stay when he comes to hang out with me through food, which I appreciate, which is great. And that's how you know
well,
you're getting old, is when you appreciate food more than money.
I think it's the breakfasts and the coffees I deliver to you when you're first waking up, which sounds kind of weird, but I've known you long enough where there aren't too many secrets between you and I.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of introduce Wayne and kind of why he's on the show and do our little background. So I've known Wayne since high school, long time, and I think we just kind of met along the way, same group of friends. We've had Dr. Tony on here before as a special guest. He's in this circle of friends, and it's one of those things where I've spoke about before. Every year around Christmas time, we get together when we're all home in Pennsylvania for break, and we make it a point to get together, and we have our bro Don, and Don is Pittsburgh East.
Don.
Yeah.
Now for those who don't know Pittsburghese, down is spelled DAHN. So if you ever want to go to downtown Pittsburgh, you just put the A, the H, and the N. So
Pittsburghese. Melon thinks it's was it in Australia? It's like a bogan, which is it sounds like a redneck type thing. So we're pretty convinced that Pittsburghers and Yinzers are half Australian. But that's up for debate. We're gonna bring Melon out to Pittsburgh, take him to a Steeler game downtown, get him some Manny Brothers, and see what comes out of him. But
take him to the point.
Yeah. So anyways, Wayne and I have been friends, and in our circle is tight with Dr. Tony and a few other guys. And like anybody else, and we talk about on this show all the time, is everybody goes through adversity, goes through struggle, goes through pain. Nobody gets a pass. That's the one for sure thing in life, is nobody gets a pass. No matter how much money you have, your status, your job, your title, your position, like whatever, it's only a matter of time before something comes and hits you like your kryptonite. That's going to spiral you, that's going to leave you wondering, as if, make you question yourself as a person, as a son, as a friend, as a teammate, whatever it is. And this is just something different that I've personally never experienced in my life. Personally, I've been around it a few times with some of the stuff that Wayne's going to talk about, and I'll let him kind of explain. But there was a period within Wayne's recent life, and about the next recent decade, where he struggled with a lot of drug addiction, drinking, pornography, sex issues, and a whole bunch of other things. And I don't care who you are, I guarantee you're going to be able to relate to at least one of these, because I know I have, and I'm just going to be blatantly honest about it. I never dealt with drugs or alcohol abuse or anything like that. I've had that around in my family and have witnessed it. But I definitely can relate to the porn issue and a couple other things where it's been rampant while away on deployments or in the middle of a hellhole on the other side of the earth. And, you're just lonely and freaking, looking for a feeling or something to feel alive. So I can relate to that. But anyways, I'm going to turn over to Wayne, and he can kind of open it up with the beginning here, and just roll.
Well, I mean, addiction's weird, and I hold some pretty controversial ideas about addiction. As a man who is now 35 and has been able to see what I've done in my past, I try to say that I'm a recovered drug addict. And, there's people who say, oh, you're never really recovered. You're never over it. And I guess there are some that are like that, who like struggle so deep with the addiction that they just can't get over it. I, on the other hand, feel that I've moved past most of the major addictions in my life. Biggest one being heroin. September 4th, 2012, almost died from it. Of shooting up in the house with no front door with a bunch of dirty drug addicts, and the load was strong, and I just hit me, and I remember I ran out the door, and I puked all over the side of that out this door, and walked out, and sober, dead sober. And that was enough to scare me away from ever doing it again. And I've been doing it for about 9 months at that point. I drank from a young age, used snuff, cigars from a young age, went into cocaine, went into sex, I went into everything. And I come to find out that addiction is less about the substance that you're using and more about trying to fill a hole inside you that you can't. That's something that I've realized in the process of the last year, is that I wasn't trying to get more high or more drunk or anything else. I was just trying to fill a hole inside me that I couldn't. No amount of drugs or booze or sex or porn or anything could ever actually fill that massive gaping hole that it just ate me alive every single day.
Yeah. So going back to high school, Wayne was like, he was the weirdo of the group. He was always the outspoken funny weirdo. Like, everybody will attest to that. But there was never any like, oh my God, this guy is so toxic and bad that I don't want him around me, and that was always the feel. And I think there was definitely some things that led you to that direction. And I know one in particular, which I'll let you talk about with Brandon. But what do you think it was from your childhood? And you're talking about there's a hole, there's some pain, there's some other things.
Yeah.
We'll call it the normal life, and then transitioning over into this darker period of your life. What do you how do you see that? Like, how did it happen? What contributed to it? What do you think influenced you to go that route?
Well, like you can think about like most of the people you've met in your life, especially if they're around the same age. Um, I don't know anybody that, I mean, let me take that back. I know like three people whose parents are still together, right? One of them being my wife. Her parents are still together, been together for, oh man, almost 40 years now. Dr. Tony, his parents are still together. But, I was a product of divorce. I was a product of a father who left his kids for another woman. And he tried coming back. He tried being a part of our lives, but it was never that same. That lightning was gone. The bottle was shattered. There was nothing left of anything. Then he ended up moving down to Mississippi in early 2000, and it just our lives changed. And I never felt like I had a role model that could teach me the right ways. And I did eventually at some points find men for at least a little while that could show me the ways of life. But if we're going to talk about, where how I went from being what Mike here calls me, one of the, weird kid, which I'm not going to deny. I was, I'm not going to deny that. You know, to what I was, I mean, we dealt with death. I mean, our kid that was my best friend died. He died at the age of 21, and I was 20. Um, you know, he died of leukemia. Technically, it was septic shock. That he had leukemia. It was his third time fighting leukemia, and it got him. And in the process of doing all this in this last year of what I've been doing with the book that I'm writing, I've been slowly revolving my soul and my heart as the onion that everybody is, with all the different layers and tearing them apart and trying to find the root causes for everything. And I would like to think that Brandon's death was a factor in what I did, especially thinking of the fact of you know being there moments after they pronounced him dead and being allowed to see him. And you're 20 years old and you're looking at a guy who's been your best friend for a very long time since you were a child. And it's look, man. I mean, I can get as graphic as you want. I mean, it's the sad reality is that when you have loss versus addiction, they go hand in hand, and they want to be together. They need to be together. Because the first thing you do when you have a bad day, what do? I'm going to have a beer. It's going to make me feel better. To the most people, that's okay. But when you have a bad day and you're always turning, and even if you have a good day, you're turning to it. And that's where the addiction becomes something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I mean, I couldn't go out to the bars with my buddies and have a beer. I go out and have 12 beers. Or I'd go to a party and there'd be cocaine there, and I couldn't have just a line. I wanted the whole bag. So there is no control when it comes to me. I've been working on that in the last couple months with drinking. I obviously don't use drugs anymore. I probably lose my job. So I'm not trying to do that this year. But it's hard, man. It is, and it's a rough time when it comes to everything that you have to deal with drugs. And anybody that's listening that may have used drugs or continues to use drugs, I mean, it's they know. They don't want to hear it because it's the denial of it all is the worst piece.
It's uncomfortable to know that you have to admit that at one way, shape, or form, you weren't prepared to deal with something that was ready to crush you, and that you were weak. And it's not a demeaning thing. It's just kind of like where we're at. And, again, I've never dealt with this type of addiction, or these types of problems, but I can relate to Wayne, and we've talked about it over the years. Brandon Lewis died, and I was there that night at the hospital when it all happened, and it was just a terrible thing, like going. For me personally, I lost my dad in 2006 when I was 18. I lost him to cancer, to really bad stage 4 lung cancer. And I was different than Wayne. I never processed my feelings. I buried them. And I was getting ready to go off to the military. And all I knew was like, okay, my dad's gone. And, he was my best friend growing up my whole life. And going into this whole nother thing with the same thing, with no leadership, no guidance, no male figure to show me the way, or to call and say, Dad, I don't know what to do, or how do I handle this, or what's something that I can do differently. There was none of that. And I took it upon myself to be like, well, I'll figure it out. I know what I'm doing. I'm successful. I'm in the military. I'm a man. I wasn't no fucking man. I was a young, scared kid that didn't know how to process his feelings, didn't know how to move forward. I didn't know how to admit that I was hurting. I didn't know how to admit that I was lost or confused or scared. That was not an option. And right before we hit the record button, Wayne and I were talking. It's just like, yeah, dude, that's how the culture was. It's like, men don't talk about their feelings. You're going to grow up and shut up about it, because women don't want to hear about your problems. They always want a strong man that can handle everything, and you're not allowed to process or feel. So what do? Well, you do what I did, and you just numb it and bury it, or you self-medicate to try to take it away or fill that hole or cover up that pain. So I can relate to Wayne in a certain way. I think we just kind of went two different paths.
My kindred spirit. It is the truth. I mean, every guy that's listening to this, no matter how old you are, how young you are, you remember hearing one of your uncles say, don't be a little girl, don't be a little girly man. Come on. I can hear the echoes of Schwarzenegger in the back of my head. And, it's a shame that we live this kind of denial life where, we aren't allowed to express how we feel about things because it seems a sign of weakness. And I'm lucky enough that, my wife, has her PhD in psychology, and she is extremely in touch with every kind of facet of emotions, and it's made my life a lot easier. And I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for her. Especially with what I've been doing with this book, what I've been doing with my life, and how I've been changing myself and trying to be a different person, because you come to wake up one morning and you're like, man, things just aren't right. Well, I'll keep doing the same shit I've been doing for the last couple of years, and well, we'll see if it changes. A couple of years go by and you're like, well, I shouldn't change the path now. I've already invested this far, so I might as well just keep on the same path. And that was me.
Let's
before
let's go right there, man. So, just to talk about that particular part, because I think that's another relatable part that we can all hear and be like, yeah, that's been me. What is the part with, after you started this path? You said, hey man, I went in, I tried it out. I think you were dating a girl at the time that kind of got you into it. And it kind of went down that way. And this is over 10 years, and we were friends through this whole thing, and obviously you were up in, I think, Erie, Pennsylvania for the beginning of it. And, I was away, I wasn't home a lot. So we kind of had some disconnect time, but we were always still really good friends. And I didn't know the depth of a lot of these things that you were going through.
I mean, it was deep, man. And Alex Hyde, They are the best hide and go seek people of all time, but they only come out to seek when they need more drugs. And
Mhm.
that's something that I've always said is that, you hide away your feelings, you push it away. It was June, or I'm sorry. Let me look. It was August, okay, and that's when I started shooting it. August in Pittsburgh is about 98 degrees outside. Right, it is hot. It is muggy out there, and there's Wayne wearing long sleeve shirts and hoodies. Because I had injection marks all over my arms. So, we want to hide away because we don't want to talk about it. And as much as I would have loved to tell everybody what I was doing, other people did for me. There was a specific family member who went out and told everybody what I was doing. Don't trust him. He's going to steal money from you. Don't talk to him. End of story. So it went. It was a matter of a couple of days where I just lost everybody. Um, Close friends, aunts, uncles, everybody gone. And the only person I had was the girl that I was seeing. And when you're dating, when you're an addict and you're dating a hardcore addict, you tend to just suck right onto them. And I mean, it was a match made in hell.
Yeah.
Um, my wife is a match made in heaven. That was the exact opposite. Sadly, I've had more than just one of those, and I think Mike can verify some of those. But it's just you know we all want to find that purpose inside of us. We all want to know what's next for us. And the one thing you got to do is you have to find it. I can't help you. Mike can't help you. Can't. That comes from inside you.
Yeah, and man, that was one of the hardest things for me personally. So, I mean, I've talked a lot about my story on this show and struggling with, dealing with emotions and
Yeah.
just exactly what Wayne said, locking them up and then just keep going forward and be like, yeah, I'm totally fine and I can handle it. And my pride and my ego was just slowly burying me until I broke. Um, I didn't know this about Wayne. I heard things from our circle and like little things, but he was like very kind of in the shadows with me. And I don't know if that's like a certain reason that he didn't want me to be ashamed of him because, one thing about Wayne that I say I love, man, and this guy has been one of my top supporters in my life and my career, and even till this day, times 10, all of that. And we have talks like this often, and I'm most grateful for recently. But I don't know why, we didn't have these conversations earlier because I didn't know all this was going on. But at the time, I don't think I would have known how to help him as much as I wanted to. I,
Fair enough.
you know, that's the thing. And I don't think I could because I've dealt with drug addiction and alcoholism within my extended family. And there was nothing anybody could do unless they wanted to get the help themselves and find a purpose and a why on why they should. And like you said, you're not just going to continue the cycle because, well, this is what I do and this is who I became and this is just easier and I at least know what I'm doing and have an idea. But you know what? Like whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's whatever, whether it's dating, and you're just running through men or women or whatever, just trying to like feel something. How exhausted do you wake up one day and you're just like, I can't do this shit anymore. I am so tired. My mind's tired, my body, my soul. This is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And you're trying to find that new purpose, like what's next.
Can I?
I think that's what Wayne's talking about.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I would say was a funny story. So I was married between was it 2018 to 2021 technically. Moved out 2 weeks before COVID hit, and was living with a couple buddies, and I stayed in someone's house for a while who didn't live there. He was renting it, and I got back on swiping apps and online dating, and I started going back to a sex club that's in this area of Pittsburgh, and I went hog wild. I did, and I cannot tell you this, that I went nuts. I wear a suit well, speak well, and I, I I've just always been able to pick up women as much as, and I don't know. You got to take us out of here. Don't put this in there. Uh,
It's all
you
right, dude.
know,
This is real. This is real talk, real shit, Wayne. Like,
yeah. The truth. The truth is like, and people are like, "Oh, when did you realize that you had a problem, and when did you stop?" This is a true story, and I do want this in here because this is a true story. I was at the sex club, all right, and I had two women in front of me on a bed, naked. They said, come to bed. Come on, we want you, we want you, we want you. Come on, come on, come on." I was standing there. Two women, which it had numerous times. It wasn't. It's not as big as a deal, you know. So I'm looking at this. They're touching each other, begging me, come on, join us. We want you." And I was like, I'm not into this anymore. This isn't the life I want to be. And it wasn't like, oh, the clouds parted from the heavens and God spoke unto me. It wasn't like that. It was just something in my head. I was like, man, this isn't it anymore. Like, and yeah, sure, I could just do it and be like, all right, well, I had my fun. I'm going home. I said, I can't be here anymore. So I told these girls, I don't remember their names. I said, look, I gotta go. And they said, whoa, what was it, us? I said, no, no, not at all. I said, you guys are very nice. I said, I have to go. I said, this is something with me, and I don't need to be here anymore.
yeah,
And I left, came home. I remember I called Jenna. I think the next day, her and I started talking again, and been with her ever since.
yeah.
And I just, the epiphany of just being, most men, and I mean 98% of men probably could never turn that down. And to me, it's just like, I just don't care anymore. Like, this means nothing. Like, and you think of what you give away, and I've said it before, where the term slut, that's not just for a woman, that's for a man too. And like, I was giving myself away to people that didn't deserve it, or didn't know me well enough for that.
Mhm.
So
Dude, that's never been talked about on this show.
what, sluts?
Sluts, yeah. No, just like that type of topic with that type of detail and understanding, but it is very real.
Yeah.
And there are many people, and like I said, I've struggled with it too, man. I'm not innocent.
Oh,
I've
it's the
struggled
easiest
with,
one.
yeah, I've struggled with porn and being on deployment in the military, like I said,
Yeah.
overseas. There's the terabyte of hard drive that's going around, and there's a terabyte of porn on it, and everybody passes it
Yep.
around. Hey, take what you want, man. There's movies on there. There's movie series, there's Netflix stuff, there's porn. Like, take whatever you want, man. Like, and it's just, what are you going to do for 6 months or a year? And you're in
Yeah.
a shithole. It's like, I just want to entertain myself and keep my mind off of what's really hard and shitty. Um, and that's the wrong way, man.
Yeah.
And
Sex addiction is the easiest one to fall into. With the advancements of technology and everything that you can do. I mean, so the crazy part is that you have the swiping apps, and like the one that starts with a T. I That was always the one where I just I'd go on for quick. How quick can we get it done? Some of the other ones that was meant for long term or short term dating, and that was my life, from 2020 until Jenna and I started actually like dating. That was my life, and even before I met my first wife, that was my life, and just constantly a revolving door of women, and women that I really didn't care about.
yeah,
And if you listen to this, I'm sorry, I was a different man back then, and I didn't care about anything other than, can I get off? Can I have fun? And is she bisexual? Because that meant a lot to me for some reason.
Yeah.
So
So let me ask you this, man. This might be a tough question, but
no tough questions.
that's why we do it.
Mhm.
So your first wife, and you don't have to mention her name or anything, but um,
Mhm.
that marriage, and from what I got to know and having conversations with you, what would you say was the difference between what that one was born out of and how it happened, and what was your current marriage born out of, and how has it been going?
All right. So, first marriage, I met my first wife in kindergarten. Let's pause for the oohs and ahs because it is an adorable story. And we we're kind of friends in elementary school after kindergarten, and then we eventually just, you went yo your own way. You're in a school of 400 people. You have 400 students in the same class. You tend to find your own little niche. So it was about 10 years after high school ended. She is a tailor, custom tailor in Pittsburgh. Does phenomenal work. She does. A little expensive for my taste, but I reached out to her because I needed something done for Freemasons, which I'm a member of, and she gave me, we met, and I'll never forget. Our first date, we went in, and I saw her studio, and we stood there and laughed. I mean, we laughed at each other for like 15 straight minutes. It was very awkward. And then that night we went up kissing, and that, like, 7 days later, I told her I loved her, and then you know, I'm sorry. 7 days later, I asked her to be my girlfriend. Then 7 days after that, I told her I loved her, and then, a month and a half after that, we're living with each other, and then a year after that, we're married. We had a 1 month engagement and got married. Planned a whole wedding, just her and I. And after the wedding, everything changed. I mean, the drinking got worse, and that wasn't just her. That was me too. We fought constantly, and it all ended in March of 2020. I mean, there's a lot of stories, and I don't want to speak ill. I mean, she it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
She knows, I know, and there's two sides to every story. There's a right one and a wrong one, and I'm not a big fan of dictating what's right and what's wrong. That's not my. I'm not a judge, so. Um, but when I look back at at that failed marriage, because that's what it was. It was a failed marriage. I learned. I learned a lot, and I learned of the man that I needed to be. So, it's funny. It's actually last night, before I went to bed, I was praying, and I actually prayed for my ex-wife to for God to thank her for for giving me the opportunity to have the life that I have now.
Mm.
Because without that moment, without this happening, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't. I wouldn't be as happy as I am. I wouldn't be as positive as I am. I wouldn't be anything without that moment of her asking for a divorce. So yeah, that's never thought I'd ever do that
Yeah.
in my life. So, um,
So
but
just to sum it up real quick, would it be fair to say that um, you pursued that relationship for the wrong reasons, for selfish reasons,
yeah,
and for things that weren't based off of long-term healthy relationships?
well, I mean, I would say yes and no. I mean, there were instances of deep, cosmic radiated love. I mean, there really were.
Mm-hmm.
And but there was times of absolute pain and torture and hatred,
Yeah.
and that's not a marriage, man. That's not.
Yeah.
That is something that is just, toxic and so hard to deal with. And my current wife, phenomenal woman. um I can't And I met her when I was a drug addict, right before I was a drug addict. And she went through the drug addiction with me. Now, she was very far away from it, and I was seeing another girl, but she would come back. She was actually there September 4th, 2012, when I admitted to my mother and her that I had almost just died. And they were both crying and both really upset. And I said, look, I'm done. Here's my wallet, here's my keys, here's my phone. Take it. I'm done. I don't want any more of this life. And that was it. And we really didn't talk much throughout the decade or so in between. And she was, and I hope she hears me. I don't know if she will. She was stalking me on Facebook. Saw that I was single again after my divorce, and wanted to learn how to play guitar. So she messaged me, instead of just doing a quick Google search or Amazon search. She messaged me asking about acoustic guitars. And I told her, well, you could buy this, you could buy that. And she goes, well, I'd really like you to teach me. And I'm like, well, I'm not really a teacher. I can give you numbers. She goes, no, I really want to, this and that. And she came over, and, one thing led to another. And then she had a key to my apartment. And, one thing led to another. We got engaged. And then, 4 months later, we got married. Some reason I don't like being engaged long in case they change their minds. But no, she's a wonderful wife, and it's not even just the wife part. I mean, she's a friend. She's the partner that I've always needed, and I always had. I just never. I don't know. Something inside my body was like, nah, you can go out and find something else. It's just, and it was wrong. But you know what? We all make mistakes, and we all got to grow up and learn from those mistakes. So, yeah, second marriage definitely better than the first one. I recommend it to almost everybody who's having problems.
Yeah, well, yeah, dude. Well, dude, I again, totally relatable, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's not something easy to share. I was married before, as you well know, and
was there.
Yeah, and it didn't in the end it didn't work out. It was a mutual decision to split and going, but that still made me feel in a lot of ways like a failure as a man. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? How did we get here? How did I allow certain things to happen or go that way? How did I allow it to get this bad? Like, I was powerless. And there's a lot of stuff on that end, but there were certain things, and this is the point I'm getting at. There were certain things that only I could control and that I could work on. I can't fix someone else. And over time, and I've reflected on this, especially the last couple months, well, more than the last couple months. Mellon called me on this too, which is what a great friend will do. Mellon is like, Mike, you're a fixer. You're a healer. I believe through a lot of the things that I've been through, a lot of pain from losing my dad to the military and death and combat and losing my friends and seeing some of the worst that this planet and human beings have to offer. I never want to see other people in pain. That is a product that I've become. And when I see people struggling, when I hear people's pain, when I hear people crying, when I hear them so exhausted or upset, like, I want to help you. Like, I really, really do. And sometimes I think I exhaust myself trying so hard to control that situation and control that thing that it becomes to my detriment, that I start declining because I can't fix it, because I can't get the result that I pray for. I felt like that in the previous relationship that I had, that no matter what I did, I couldn't do anything right, and I couldn't fix whatever the problem was. And I didn't know what the problem was. And I would call Wayne, I would call Mellon, I would call everybody, be like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how could I do this better? Can I fix this? What can I do? Like, my heart's in the right place. Like, I'm really trying to be a good man. I'm really trying to take all the lessons previous in my life, acknowledge them, take ownership of them and fix them. And it's not working. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I just found myself kind of losing my mind and doubting myself and just being like, man, is it me? Am I the terrible person? Again, then you go in the cycle, take ownership of what you can. And then it's like, well, then what? I couldn't control that. I couldn't control that. And sometimes, and I think Wayne kind of alluded to this, is sometimes you got to like acknowledge it and walk away from it. Not because, like your first wife, Wayne, it's like, not because you didn't love her. I know she had a little boy and that you loved him to death.
Yeah.
Please believe me, I can relate to that. And it's the hardest thing that you have to do. And you don't want to, but at the same time, it's like, this is unfixable as a couple. And this is like, you need to work on yourself. I need to work on myself. Like this, at least right now, this isn't going to happen. And it's one of the hardest goddamn things that you have to do.
It really is. And, any time you're walking away from, a stepchild of any type, after you cultivate a relationship with them for however many years you're in there, it was hard and it still is. And, I do miss him. I do. And, I could have had a relationship with him. I chose my mental health over that. I was given an opportunity and I told her no. I couldn't come to grips with that. And I had to just move on and, basically scorched earth it and just walk away from all of it. And I'm not saying that was the right way. I never will. It could have went a different way. Life worked out. I mean, she's apparently a lot more happier now. I'm a whole other person. I don't even recognize myself when I look at pictures from me back then. Bloated, drunk, just miserable. I remember so much of what happened from back then, and like that 4-ish years were so bad for me. I mean, they were rough years, and but it builds character.
There
That's
it
the
is.
worst part. That's the worst part of it all.
There it is.
That you go through all this trauma and this turmoil and all this hate, self-hate and loathing and self-righteousness, and it's like, well, what did it do for you? Well, I learned to cope better. It's like, well, I didn't hit the lottery, but I got some character development from it, and that's the hard part of it, is that you're never gonna get what you really think you're gonna get out of it. I mean, I what I learned from drug addiction is that it's fun to tell people. So I am the director of human resources for an energy corporation. We have about 120 or so employees. And I do all the HR and I do all the recruitment for the companies as well. Well, the two in this area. There's one way south in West Virginia that I don't really touch. So my favorite thing is to tell people who have known me for years that I was a drug addict, and their faces are shocked. They're shocked. They're appalled. They can't believe it. They think I'm lying to them. They think I'm screwing with them, because I tend to have a very warped sense of humor sometimes. And sometimes, yeah. Mike knows. I've told some pretty dirty jokes in my day. But so I tell these people these things, and they're shocked. I mean, the face that you get. You would not ever expect a man who has the role that I have, with no college degree, by the way. I've been very lucky. You want to find a company that believes in you. It's great. It's what I've learned, is that it's the shock value, and it's, you would have never expected. If I was standing next to you at the bank, you'd be like, wow, that looks like a very nice guy. I'm sure he has his life together. It's like, well, 4 years ago I did not, and I was a terrible person, and I loved cocaine, and I couldn't stop doing cocaine because I needed it,
Yeah.
because it made me felt normal,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I
So
think, definitely there, dude, is you can never tell by someone's cover, and it's different every time. And I think,
yeah,
you could be a well-dressed person with a nice suit and be like, oh man, this person's successful, they're great. You could be a special operator in the military, and everybody thinks that your life is peaches and cream and perfect, and you're living the best life.
I don't know. I wouldn't believe that. I don't know who lives in that fairy tale world.
Well, it definitely is a fairy tale world because,
Yeah,
and I'm talking about Wayne and I and our experiences, and what people don't see is the internal war that's going on inside of you,
yeah,
in your mind, your soul, the battle with yourself, the battle with
yeah,
your perception, your self-confidence, your self-vision. Like, you don't love yourself because you've been a terrible human being. You've done terrible
yep,
things. You've hurt people. You're not living a good, godly life. And that eats away at you like cancer inside of it. And you may be smiling on the outside, and you don't want anybody probing you. You don't want anybody to address your weakness in front of, if you're in a relationship. You don't want your partner to be like, well, hey, I think you really need help, or I think you should really address this. And then what's usually the first thing? I don't need help, I'm good. Like, it's you that
that's
need help.
defense,
I'm not the problem, you're the problem. And it's like a defense
denial.
mechanism. It's a denial thing, right? I mean,
Yep.
how many times did you say that, Wayne, when somebody would bring something up?
I mean, how many times? I mean, how long we got? We both have 10 fingers and 10 toes. I mean, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Um, I really. So you said something, and I'm in my book right now. So because I knew I wanted to touch upon this. So
We're going to get to the
um,
book, by the way. I'm going to make it a point, and I want
good.
to share this part of it, or that part of it, because it is awesome what Wayne's doing. So we'll get.
So I've been writing this thing for a while. More like Mike said, we'll talk about it in a couple of minutes. But so I have something called the long versus the snowball decline. And you have an aunt who just loves her life, and she lives in a nice part of town with a big house. But all she does all day is just hang out and take Xannies with wine. And that's crazy Aunt Kathy. She's just, not Aunt Kathy, Aunt Heather, whoever you want to call her. Because I have an Aunt Kathy, and if she listens to this, I swear it wasn't you that randomly came up. Aunt Kathy, I love you. Um, that's I'm not kidding. We got to delete that out of there. She's like, why'd you call me? I was drinking wine and pouring picture with you, son of a bitch. That's not true. And Kathy's a wonderful, wonderful lady. All right. So you have someone who is living in a nice house in suburbia and is doing drugs, right? And it's not a big deal. She just gets a little loopy every now and then, and whatever. But the neighbor kid, holy hell, the neighbor kid, terrible kid. He's on heroin, he's on crack, he steals money from his parents. Who's worse?
Yeah.
I'm asking you, Mike. Who do you think is worse?
Oh, I think it's honestly, I think it's all about self-perception. I mean, if it's her
They're
looking
both
at
the
him,
same.
he's the worst. If it's the kid, he's gonna look at that woman and go, "You're no better than I am," and
They're both the same.
yep,
They're
yep,
both on the same path to stop to destruction. And the problem is that when you're doing Xannies, like Xanax or any kind of barbiturate, you build up a tolerance. So over time, you have to take more and more and more and more and more. And when you combine those with alcohol or marijuana or any kind of other substance, it brings you down more. So that's why you have people dying from Xanax, because they're taking so much of it that their body just shuts down.
mhm,
um I that's it's one of the things I always loved is like, well, so in recovery, recovery being, whether it's NA, AA, Narcotics Anonymous, or Alcoholics Anonymous, or rehab, they always say, like, you don't tell war stories. We don't want to hear. Nobody wants to hear what you did when you were ripping and running through the streets. And to me, it never bothered me, because those were the lessons I learned of, hey man, you can't buy it off this guy because his stuff's like, it's cheap. It's been cut 30 times, and there's barely any actual drugs in it now. It's just all filler shit.
Mm.
You end up learning things going down the road in the addiction that you just take with you. And I can spot 9 times out of 10 a drug addict from, like, 100 feet away.
Mm.
And it's the look in the eye. It's not the patchy skin or the scratching of the neck. It's the look in the eye. It's hollow. It's gone. It's dead. There's nothing in it. There's no shining behind it. There's no twinkle. And it's a sad thing. And when I interview guys, I can look at them. I can tell that they're messed up. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna send you for a drug test. Oh, okay. Well, great. And then they never go to it. It's like, well, I know why, because you're on this or you're probably on that. And it's real sad, when I see people that, like, struggle with, like, long term drug abuse. I mean, I was on heroin for less than 10 months. It was a hell of a long 10 months. So, cocaine off and on for about 4 years. Alcohol, oh man, I mean, that when I got this apartment in 2020, I was a homemade amateur bourbon sampler. I was drinking $150 plus worth of bourbon a week. You
Yep.
know, so
Well,
yeah,
what you said is, telling war stories in a way, Wayne, and there is value to these stories, because within the
yeah,
struggle of the story, I believe that lies the lesson that we
yeah,
need to go through and experience, and then wade through the pain and wade through the scenarios in our decisions, and then we're going to find out exactly why it went that way, and what you, not anybody else, all right, point the thumb, not the finger. I always say, take accountability of what you did for that situation
Hmm.
and take ownership of it. Number one, before
No,
you appoint or accuse anything, admit where you went wrong, and went
most
on.
people can't do that. You know that,
how,
right?
how hard is that, dude?
It's the most impossible thing in the world, because why? It shows that we are weak.
Yes.
It shows that we don't have control of every single facet of our lives. I recently I wrote something like, we only really have like 10% control. We get to pick what we wear every day. We get to pick what comes out of our mouths and what we eat. That's about it. Everything else in this world, you ain't got no choice.
Yeah.
Also, I have to pee really bad.
Well, go ahead, and I'll just talk to the everything. This is
Keep
how
talking.
real it gets on Pushing Back Chaos. He's literally getting up and going to pee.
I
So
thought you were gonna delete this.
no, we're just gonna let it fly, bro. this
Let me
is
mute it.
this is why I love Wayne. He just sends it, literally.
I can't send it.
Yeah. So this whole point about what Wayne's talking about is taking accountability. And it is one of the hardest things. And Melon and I have spoken about this before. This is one of the hardest things that a human being can do. Like, you think about movies, and there's, like, I don't know, superheroes that have powers and they just want to destroy the earth and destroy the world. It's like, wow, that's a terrible superpower. That's hard, this, that, whatever. Let's come back to reality. And we sit there. It takes me back to a video of a guy that had no arms and no legs, and he's standing on a stage talking to a bunch of people about life and being a real man, being a real person, like a good, genuine person, a strong person. And he said, you think you're tough? You really want to be a real man? You want to be a tough man? Line up the people that you've ever hurt and apologize to them face to face. Tell me how tough you are. And that grabbed me, like, right off the bat, man. I was like, dude, that's a tough one. How hard would that be to look at maybe somebody that you loved, that you cared about so much, and just look at them in the eye and go, I was not the person I needed to be. I messed up. My priorities were wrong. I was selfish. I whatever it is. And I hurt you so bad. And I'm sorry.
You know,
How hard that is. And you know what? I've done that in the last couple years, because, again, none of us are None of us get a pass from pain or heartbreak or like anything else. And if I learned anything from it, it's I need to come forward and take ownership of what I did wrong. And to anybody I hurt, I want to give an explanation to and explain, because the last thing I want to do is leave them in the dark wondering, why did this person hurt me? Or why did this person do what they did with no consideration for me? And it's just like, dude, that's the worst thing you could do to me. I don't want to do that to you. Now, Wayne's back from his awesome bathroom adventure, but what happens at the point when you can take ownership and admit your wrongs and let your damn pride and ego go? Like, how far is your pride and your ego going to go? How long are you going to keep the mask on and act like you're perfect and it's not your problem, or it's not my fault, everything's your fault? Like, cool, great. Who are you trying to
Well,
impress? You know what I mean? Like,
some people live that way. They want to live that way because it's easier. You know, when you have done so much terrible stuff in your life, like everything keeps everybody up at night. You know, I only know like two people that go to bed. They're like, "Hey, good night." They close their eyes, and within a couple minutes, they're asleep. You know, most people, they see the horrors of everything they've ever done since time immemorial every night when they close their eyes, and it's just sitting there haunting the hell out of them.
yeah,
And I, I deal with it. I sometimes things keep me up at night that, hey, they shouldn't bother me anymore. And you know what? We're all human. You know, we're trying to become better people, and we're trying to be smarter when it comes to the decisions that we make. I mean, it's why I try to live in the now. I don't live in the past. I can't change that. I can't. The only things I can do is influence what my future may look like by
mm-hmm.
what I do right now.
Yeah,
And that's how I've been living my life for the past couple, months, if not last year. And I'll be honest, my life actually got a lot better. My stress levels are super low. I'm not anxious. Never really have been, but I'm just nice and you know steady, man. And I know people that they're up and down all day long, jagged edges of just stress and anxiety. It's not me, man. I'm just nice and even
yeah,
because I don't worry about the past. I can't change anything that I did. If you really really hurt people, and I mean I really hurt. I ruined a wedding. I broke up a marriage. I have hurt people, numerous people. I can't change anything that I did. And even you can only say you're sorry so much and write a nice little handwritten written note and send them a box of chocolates or flowers. It's not gonna fix anything. You
yeah.
know, you just have to accept the fact that, hey, I screwed up, and this friendship is over. I've lost numerous friends because of the things I've said and the things I've done. Just I've realized what my issue is. It's because I was drunk. I was high on coke. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about the person's attitudes towards anything. So why did I care about ruining someone's wedding? Who cares? It's all good. They'll get over it. They didn't.
Yeah.
And you know, it's something that we have to take accountability for what we do. You can't live just la 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 running down the street like a 9-year-old kid with $10 to go buy candy with. I mean, that's not how life works. I mean, it's,
So just real quick, before we get into your book, man, and it's
mhm.
that's some great stuff that you just put out there, some great perspective and lessons learned. Um, we always talk about where we go to find these lessons and to find the guidance. So both of us grew up kind of without that male figure of,
Yeah.
hey, what is a real man? This is how you should be. This is what you should be as a partner, as a husband, as a boyfriend, as a teammate, as a son. Where are you personally going now to seek that out and to get that guidance?
Like the male guidance.
life, we'll call it male life guidance, like who you're supposed to be. You said you know who you are now and what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Where are you getting that?
Well, so I mean, it's a mixture of things. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I do have a actual relationship with my father now. Now he lives in Alabama, so it's a little hard to see him every now and then. But I do call my mother and father every single day on the phone. Whether I talk to them for 2 minutes or 20 minutes, I call them every single day on the phone. And the lessons that I'm learning now, at least within the last week or two, a lot of I've been reading the Bible, man. I have, and I think I told a joke to a friend of mine. I said, "Look, man, I willingly went to church for the first time ever in my life. I'm 35 years old. You know, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and that could be a whole other, pushing back chaos episode. Trust me."
Yeah, I can't tell you how
Um,
many times Wayne came beating on my door and would not leave me alone, you know.
that is not true. You wouldn't return my texts or my phone calls. I was worried. You know, what kind of guy takes another guy out on a date and doesn't call him back? So, um, uh, so yeah, I mean, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, so a lot of what it was the horror, the oppression of that, and if any of the listeners know anything about that, well, then you know what it's like. I mean, it wasn't. I was lucky enough. Our mother was pretty easygoing. Um, she wasn't like, you can't have friends that aren't in the church. You're not allowed to go to school. You're being homeschooled. It wasn't like that. That's how I met Mike and Dr. Tony and everybody else that, and Brandon and all of our friends. Um, so I was lucky in that aspect because there are people that are like that. I don't know if you know that, Mike, that it's nuts. But I started going to church willingly, and enjoying it and feeling more of a sense of some spirituality within me. Things that I hadn't felt ever in my life.
Mm.
And I'm praying, and now I'm listening to Christian rock radio because I can't listen to Led Zeppelin 2 anymore. I've heard every Metallica record, every Deftones song. I've listened to it all. I need a change. I need a shift somewhere. And you know, I get my inspiration to be a man by seeing the men around me. I try to now, as a quote unquote smarter adult, I try to surround myself with men that are successful,
Mhm.
men who have children, have families, have careers. They have things that aren't just ideas, they're tangible. And being a Freemason, it's basically the thing that saved my life. When I got clean, I mean, there was Jenna, there was my mother. But when I got involved in Freemasonry, um, I found my calling. And it's a wonderful fraternity, a wonderful organization. I don't know where I'd be without it. That's truth. I mean, it's saved my life because I got really involved, and I immediately met some of the best men I've ever met in my life, and we became close friends, and we've been close friends for 11 years now.
Mm.
So that organization is a great. It saved me. It really did. So
Well, that's inspiring, man. And Wayne called me the other day, and we talk a lot more now. And I think the first 5-10 minutes are like, "Hey, bro, how's it going?" And then we get into these conversations about life, like Melon and I do, or Raph, or different
yeah,
things. And it's a new level of friendship and understanding that we have.
yeah,
And
it's beautiful.
yeah, dude, like I really appreciate it. And we talk about the importance of who you have in your circle and what they're doing in it, and you just want to learn and get better. So Wayne's teaching me about life and some of the things that he's been through, and hopefully I've taught him some things along the way or shared some things, and that's what we're there for. We mutually care, and I think we're both basing our life off of good values and who we want to be as men, not just for ourselves, but for each other. Like, I don't want to disappoint Wayne. I don't want to disappoint Melon or anybody that truly loves me. Um, I really want to be there for them. And if I need checked, they will check me. And that's important. So I applaud you. He called me the other day and he's like, dude, I went to church for the first time in my life. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And I know I've been going as much as I can. Now I'm getting surgery here in like 3 days. So I'm going to be down for a bit, but I'm still going to watch online and still read. And God knows I've been praying a lot.
Yeah.
But all this journey, and I just want to get into this portion real quick. Everything that Wayne's talked about is a lot of compressed for about an hour, but we had a conversation one time. I said, okay, dude, you went through all this hard stuff. Like, I went through my hard stuff. What is your purpose now? Like, what direction do you feel like now that you're over that valley and you're kind of climbing the mountain still? You're up on top of the hill. You can see the sunrise. Like, life is better. I said, what do you think all that was for? Like, what's your purpose? And we talked 8 months ago, I want to say. And
Nope.
he approached me and he goes, I've been thinking about this with his wife and discussing it. And he's like, I think I kind of want to write a book. And I said, well, what kind? And he's like a 365 type thing, like a yearly thing that you can read a page a day or whatever. Because I shared with him that I have a Tony Dungy book called Uncommon Life. And it's a 365 daily devotional that he wrote. And I've read it once. I'm halfway through it again. And it's just something to start your day off with, something to reflect on, positive, kind of like ammunition, or putting your body armor on in the morning so you're ready to like speak or prepare for something that you're going to experience during the day. And I encouraged him. I said, dude, I think you should go for it. I think it's an awesome idea that you want to help people. So turn it back over to Wayne. Like, where are you at in it? How's it been going? You know,
Well, so the title is "I Am Awake," a story of drugs abuse, sex addiction, alcoholism, self-hate, rebirth, and cookbook? Question mark. Um, it's a lengthy, wordy title, but I'm okay with it because it's all true. And someone said to me, "Yo, you know that drugs abuse isn't a word?" And I said, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, why don't you change it?" And I said, "Why don't you write it?" Um, and it's written in a way that is easy to understand. Um, right now, I'm currently at 228,000 words, um, 384 pages. So I started in February. And most people are going to be like, "Hey, why are you starting that in February? If it's a 365 kind of book, it should be started in January." And I said, "Well," and it's in the book. It's somewhere. It says, "Well, your life doesn't start at the drop of a ball in New York City on December 31st, does it? No, your life can start any day of the week if you really want to choose to live it
Hmm.
to its fullest." Because I mean, how many? Well, other than you, Mike, you've probably always kept your New Year's resolutions of I want to lose 10 pounds by next year,
What
or
the hell? No.
anything.
If anything, I want to wake up with a new set of hair so Raph and Melon can't make fun of me or something like that. I don't need to lose anything. I need to gain some things. But no, I agree. Happiness is not a date on a calendar.
Yeah, and some people want to live their life like that, and that's fine. Whoever, man, whatever you want to do. Who says you can't start brand new in February or June or October? Whatever works will work for you. But I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, it's a lot, man. I mean, but I gotta be honest with you, it's probably the most cleansing experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And it's something that has changed me, something that has made me totally feel like something else. I mean, there's stories in there about sex abuse and heroin abuse, and there's almost a whole month section there just about my heroin use, and it's every day. And I was lucky enough that social media has the you can go back in time to certain dates, and I did that for 2012, and I was able to backtrack almost pretty close to the day of my first shot of heroin, my first snort of pill, because I did pills before heroin. That's how most of them start. Um, my last shot of drugs. I mean, everything. My stint in rehab. I mean, most of the days are pretty much dead on. Um, but it was draining.
Yeah.
It was really draining. A lot of the Brandon stuff was very difficult. The drug stuff was difficult. I wrote a few out. One out to my ex-wife. That was a difficult one. But you know what? It's rewarding, man. It really is, and it's something that I don't. I'm not making jokes like, well, what am I going to do after this? It's like, well, I'll just write another one. I don't know. I need something to do with my life, and it's like that episode or that scene in Fight Club where they get that dilapidated house where they're reading like I am Jack's perforated colon. It's just this guy writing thousands of novels that never got published, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
good.
think no, I hear you say that, and in my journey, dude, and that's one of the reasons we started this podcast is because I was in 2020, I was going through my own personal hell,
Yep.
and I was in a bad spot. I wasn't
Yep.
dealing with drugs or alcohol, but I was mentally and emotionally destroyed. Um, and
The worst drug of them all, Chris, Mike,
is,
love.
is what? Just repeat all that. Just said the worst drug of them all.
The worst drug of them all, man. It's love. It's not heroin. It's not cocaine. It's love. Love is the most powerful and most intoxicating drug that has ever been made on this earth.
You may,
We all abuse it. We all abuse it because it's easy.
yeah, you may be right about that, brother.
Sorry, just a little.
No, but it's great. And, I think the podcast was a way for me personally to join Raph and Mel and talk about my life and my problems and get them out of my head and my heart and acknowledge and grow and figure out what the path and my future look like going forward by taking the moment and sharing my struggles, not hiding them. And that in turn connected me to other people who were struggling. And then that brought on conversation, and then that brought in understanding, and that brought in knowing that it wasn't all about me, that it was bigger than me and the relationships and all that other stuff. And it really brought me to some good people in my life that are like family to me now. And again, I agree. If that didn't happen to me, though, I wouldn't be the man who I am today. And I look at myself in the mirror. I love myself. I can look at Wayne and I love who he's become and the path that he's on. I tell him all the time and he tells me all the time, which I love. I'll get a random text in the middle of the day. Hey, I love you, brother. I'm so proud of you. Like, you need to know that you're one of my favorite people in the entire world. And it just makes my day, man, because I've had bad days too, and that means the world to me. So what you're doing and writing is therapeutic, and we've talked about journaling and how beneficial it is to clear your mind, get your thoughts, and write about stuff and tell your story as if it was a storybook or a movie, and your part in it, whether you were the hero or the villain, is going to be therapeutic. But the best thing that Wayne said about it, he goes, "I just want to help other people," and that's special.
I don't care about money. Growing up, I grew up in a decent home. We weren't extremely wealthy. It was single mom. So, and I just got to the point where I'm in the six figures. I'm 35 years old, and I've been very lucky to get to that point, and I'm blessed beyond belief. Seeing that, like I said, I don't have a college degree, and I barely passed high school. I've been very lucky in that part of my life. And people have asked me, "What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with it? You want to publish it?" Yeah, I would like to publish it. I want to help people. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame. That means nothing to me.
Hmm.
I was sitting in church on Sunday, and was thinking, well, if that book ever did take off, would I still come to church? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so would I try to hide who I was? Like, well, maybe. Would I have a personal shopper? No, no, I don't care. Like people people want fame and fortune because they've never had it before. And I don't care about any of that shit. I don't. I don't.
Hmm.
I mean, I got 9 days less than 9 days left in this book, and I'm so excited for the end, and I'm also kind of nervous about the end because I don't know how to end it. I mean, I already have the name of the chapter, but I mean, how do you end a book that's still being written? How do you finish something that isn't technically done yet?
Hmm.
You
Well,
know?
as one of your best friends, I would say try not to control that. And
Yeah,
exactly what we've been talking about is you've done the work, you've put it in for the right reasons. You're doing unselfish things, which in turn are helping you. And
yeah,
I think actually I know, dude, like I just know because he's been doing it in my life. Um, God's going to take you on a path because you're following his path, doing what he wants you to do and who you needed to be this whole time, and you're in his service now. And I thoroughly believe whatever when you finish this, the effort and the time and the discipline have been there for that reason. He's going to take it and he's going to do what he needs to do with it. So it does help other people. I can promise you that. So
hope it does.
don't worry about it. I guarantee it will. And this episode, hopefully, for any of you listening out there, we're gonna wrap this up. This is a great spot to stop at. But if you would like to reach out and send Wayne a message, we'll tag him in our post when we put out the
Yeah,
episode, and you can reach out to him if you got questions. And then also too, if you'd be interested in Wayne, it's up to you. We could maybe send out a couple stories with some of his writing so you can kind of see what he's talking about when he's writing this
yeah,
book and what he shares and the depth and the detail and the struggle and the pain that he does share in order to help other people. It's very raw, it's very, very real, but it's at the same time it's absolutely beautiful. So Wayne, anything for closing comments that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
well, I mean, I don't know the user base, or the listening base. I will say this to them is that, you know, you can achieve anything in your life, anything, anything at all, and all you need to do is just shut your mind up for a couple minutes and focus on what your body feels. Um, I've overcome a lot of self-hate and self-destructive tendencies. Um, you know, you can do literally anything you want, and don't ever give up faith that you can't. So, yeah,
Well said, mate.
yeah.
Again, I'll tell you this all the time. I love you and I'm proud of you.
Love you too, brother. Thank you.
So yeah, hey, so if you're listening, like I said, you can reach out to us. We'll connect you in with Wayne, or if there's something in particular you'd like to ask or anything, we'll throw that
Yeah,
in the show notes. um yeah, and you're always welcome back, dude, if you ever like to come back and have a part 2 or part 3 or speak on another topic. We've had Dr. Tony on talking about some rehabilitation, some other stuff like that. So, I mean, if there's a
yeah,
next step or maybe an interest from the audience that want to hear a little bit more in depth
yeah.
to help them out, then we could definitely set that up as well.
Well,
So,
you have your people call my people, and we'll talk about it.
all right, I'll have Melon call you. That's about it.
No, yeah, yeah,
That's all I
yeah,
got. He's
yeah.
gonna call you in this
Great.
shitty Aussie accent and be like, hey, Mike,
Bye.
yeah, I just got out of the fucking fada. and I have, he don't even know where he's at. So
It's so good. It's so impressive. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I've known you as a Yinzer your entire life, and I just real quick, but to the listeners, when I get around Mike within the first 5 minutes of us like hugging it out and saying, "Man, I missed you," he's all, "You guys don't know what you're talking about." It comes out. It's like someone hit him with a pan on the back of the head, and it just spews from him. It's beautiful. It's unbelievable, actually. So hopefully you get to see that someday.
yeah, man, you can't take the Yinzer out at all. That's an addiction I have. I'm a Yinzer addict. Just I love
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. I love being home. Yeah, I can't wait.
we got to find you a nice blonde ox girl.
No,
You know,
there's a guy that used to be his name's Fetterman. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's from Pittsburgh. Didn't vote,
Fetterman.
didn't vote for him, but that's the type of quality people we're talking about here.
That was Fetterneck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in this week. We really appreciate you taking the time, and this is not an easy topic. This is I
No.
guarantee at least one of us in our friend circle or our family is dealing with these type of problems, and we encourage you to maybe have these conversations or pass along this episode to them. We're all tired, we're all exhausted, we all have stuff going on, but let's look to the good people in our life that we know are good people and genuinely love and care for us, that we want to help each other out. And that's what we're all about. That's what we're promoting, and keep pushing back against the chaos. And until next week, take care.